renaissance of the way history is made. This is the keyword for tonight. I'm here with Yoran Brondsema. He is Chief Technology Officer at Hstry and has been programming since his teens. He has a master on embedded systems from the Technische Universität in Eindhoven and an undergrad in computer science from Leuven. And yes, he has been traveling for a year before he joined Hstry. And yeah, I was working as a web developer at the side. Mm-hmm. So please give a warm welcome to our guest, Yoran. Let me briefly introduce Hstry before we move on. So it's been launched in March this year and is a web platform for students and teachers to create interactive timelines. So maybe you can tell us how does it work?
Yeah, so the primary goal was to kind of re-engage students in the study of history. And so it's actually, we developed this into a web platform where first of all we thought we'd create the content. So we take, actually I'll start from the beginning maybe. So the core idea was when my co-founder was living in China, in Beijing. And he was working for this digital agency they were doing like social media campaigns to promote awareness for the environment. And in 2013, it was 60 years that the Great Smog of London happened. So Great Smog of London is like the biggest human-made pollution event that happened. Over 12,000 people died directly due to this event. So for 4 days, actually, London was covered in smog, and like there was no wind, so everything was just pitch black. And what they did, so he recreated this fictional character that woke up in London in 1953, had a smartphone and started tweeting what he was seeing. So it got picked up by BBC, by Green parties, by the London Fire Department. And so then he came back to Belgium and we started talking about this and we're like, this is a pretty cool idea, like it got a lot of traction. Maybe we can, do something with this idea. And then we looked actually in education where there's, textbooks are outdated. We're still using the same textbooks as 60 years ago. And so we saw there's kind of a revolution going on, so there's more and more technology being used in classrooms. So we thought we're going to use these concepts and map it to the education world where we re-engage students in the study of history. So that's how it all started. So you mimic social media. Yeah, kind of not mimic social media, but we because social media is very engaging. Mm-hmm. You see a tweet, you retweet, you reply, so it's very, very direct. Mm-hmm. So, and it's like in the tweets, like short snippets of information. And we think that the kids of today, they live in this world where everything goes much faster. And so we think like the old way of teaching things just doesn't go anymore with the kids of today. So that aspect we try to put in our platform, in our idea. Yeah. So which gaps in classical education you think you would fill with history? Just in history, so there's kind of a lack of collaboration. Mm-hmm. So in our timelines, but for instance, a timeline about the Battle of Waterloo is gonna happen in just a month. People can, like students can comment, they can collaborate, so they can comment on certain items, they can have a discussion, they can answer quiz questions directly through there. The teacher can then, we have some analytics, so the teacher can see which students have difficulties where. So that's, yeah. And I'm wondering how do professionals react to that? Because if I imagine my history teacher, I don't know if he would be interested or flexible enough to actually integrate that tool. Yeah, I mean, it's very mixed. You have some teachers which are really, they see the benefits. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're not saying technology is the solution. Yeah. Because you can also go too far in one direction, saying technology is going to replace everything. But no, that's not the case. It's a tool. And I think if it's used wisely, then there's an advantage to using it. And of course, there's always people saying, they've been doing their job for 30 years the same way, all the teachers. So that we realize they're not going to change now. So the primary type of teacher that we're actually targeting is the ones that are active on social media, the ones that are active on Twitter, that are active in edtech. So those are the teachers we're targeting now.
Okay.
And hopefully, as time goes by, then we'll get everyone, when the old people get retired. And
So how did you come to join Hstry? You're a co-founder as well?
Yeah, so me and Thomas, we've met like 13, 14 years ago at school. Mm-hmm. We didn't know then that we're gonna, start this thing together. So actually 4 co-founders, so me, Thomas, his brother, Jonathan, who's our editor, so he does all the content. And we have a 4th co-founder who's not actively involved anymore, but who was Thomas's boss back in Beijing.
Okay.
So he was there at the beginning, but now he kind of moved on to other things.
Okay. What influence did you take in your role? Like, how did you advance the project?
Well, from the start, I was just responsible for all the technical stuff. Basically, the development of the platform.
Okay.
That was all me until like last September when we had a second developer who joined us.
Yeah, we're all learning to code, so we're curious. Which features are you proud of? Like, what?
The tough part I've found is that, like, when you're responsible for like a whole project, that you have to take care of, everything. So, one day you do CSS style sheets, and an hour later you're like typing SQL queries, optimizing queries in the database. So it just like have this wide range of, you need to know a bit of everything, and there's a problem there, you need to know how to fix it. But if there's a problem like in infrastructure, you need to know how to fix it. So that's like the biggest challenge I found.
Okay.
Like the hardest, having it all fit together and working.
Okay. So I told you earlier we have a few people interested in the education technology field. So maybe you could say a bit about where you think it will be going in the future. Maybe some advice.
So right now it's kind of I feel like it's still very early. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of startups in the field. There's a lot of different ideas being like pushed. But I think at some point there's going to become like a consolidation of efforts. So like best practices would emerge. To give an example, like we in the field like learning management systems, those are things like Blackboard, Moodle, Canvas. Right now, like there are 10 or 20 of those companies that are doing kind of the same thing. And I think like in few years' time, like some big players would emerge and some bigger solutions would appear there. But it's definitely like starting right now.
Okay.
Like also in the investment scene, there are a couple of funds that are popping up that are doing just edtech. But again, like there are only a few. There are not too many. And I think it just needs to grow. Like we have to have some big companies that kind of make it, like the Snapchat or the Facebook of edtech, for it to fuel more money back into the smaller companies, the new startups that come back then.
So what advice would you have? I mean, you guys not transitioned, but you're also in the US now.
Yeah.
We talked about that as well. Yeah.
So we made the move to Boston in February of last year. So we started actually here first started kind of at Meetup, the accelerator in Louvain-la-Neuve. Maybe you guys know.
Yeah, a few.
So we did that 2 years ago, and then we kind of felt limited because at the time we only created content ourselves. So we were recreating the Hstry curriculum. But then you're in Europe and you have just Belgium, you have like Wallonia and Flanders and like all these very small countries with different languages, different history. So that got really tough. Mm-hmm. So it made sense. We got accepted into this edtech accelerator in Boston called LearnLaunchX. We said it's the way forward because US like one big market, one language, if you're a startup, it's always like it's a good place to be. We really like afterwards we thought like, okay, they have one curriculum for history. In the end, that's not the case. There's like every state has kind of its own, like Florida does its own stuff, and Texas has its own Texas history. But like overall, like there's some commonalities among those 340 million people. So that's why we moved to Boston. So now we're like
feasible.
Sorry.
Was more feasible for.
Yeah. It was good. It was a good decision. Yeah. So now our main market is there as well.
Okay.
About 85% of our users are US based.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you see next for history? Where do you have future visions for?
Yeah, I mean, in our eyes, we're just starting.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, we want to become like this. So we started for just history. In the end, we want to become like kind of the leading digital platform for social studies, and then hopefully expand to like all subjects.
Okay.
And also now we're focused on K-12, so primary school and secondary school. Higher ed is something we totally discard now, but that's also somewhere where we see ourselves going.
So you're cooperating with schools as well?
Sorry?
Are you working together with schools?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering if there's already a few questions from the audience.
How many users is that?
We have about 40,000 users. So that's both teachers and students together. Yeah.
Have you had any pushback from the other big educational companies that provide maybe textbooks or some sort of field?
So like the big players like Pearson, McGraw-Hill.
Yeah.
Well, we see that they're really struggling because they've been writing books for 60, like 100 years, and now we ask them to like, oh, you got to create this app, or we got to create this this web platform, and so we can see they're really struggling. Like they're looking at all those small startups, also at us, for partnerships and things like that. So in a way, like they see they kind of need fresh minds otherwise they're gonna go down at some point.
Yeah, question regarding the pricing model. How did you come up with that kind of pricing model? Exactly, what is the feedback from the people basically using it for free per person?
Yeah, so right now, the tool itself is for free indeed. The content that we create, that's what we sell. So the content that covers the US curriculum for history, not all of it yet. And actually, we're now in the process of kind of switching it to a more like freemium model, where we would put new features like behind a paywall. Because we see that right now, because there's a lot of free stuff out there. There's content like you can get it anywhere, and our content is really high quality, but it takes a lot of effort for people to convince them that they need to go for our content. And also, since we're only US based now for our content, we can only monetize from US teachers and students. So as we see, like we're in 100 different countries now, and it would be nice if we, somehow can make money from them too. I mean, our end goal is like not to become millionaires, but we at least want to have like a sound business where we at least like break even.
How long do you think it's going to take you to become financially self-sufficient?
I mean, we have a financial plan like every startup, but we all know like these are pretty much unrealistic. Like I would say not before the next 2 years. Yeah.
So you basically funded or looking for funding?
Yeah. Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question. So how did the investor react to this kind of new startup? in this education industry, which is kind of very different from other industry they used to invest. I believe you already got in touch with a couple of investors. So what are the first impressions when this young startup come up with this very different?
Yeah, they're very cautious because, like in the end, investors, they want a return on their investment. That's the only thing they want. And in the edtech world, there hasn't been like a big example of like a company from which they made like 100 times, 200 times return. And so most investors are very cautious. Some of them, they just don't invest in edtech because they think, like they say, there's no way you can make money as an investor there. But there are a few edtech only funds, but there are not that many. But I mean, we think otherwise. Like in the end, like education is so important. It's so big. We see that the field is changing. So new players will rise for sure. So it's not having investors saying no, you're never going to make money. It doesn't. We still go on.
Do you think it's the role of the government to support these kinds of initiatives?
That would make sense, yeah. I think in the end, like innovation, always like most innovation comes from like small startups, like private companies, if you want. But grants and things like that can definitely help. It helped us a lot. We got didn't mention that we got Bootstrap. The Bootstrap grant, which is a grant given by the Wallonia government, and we got that right after we did NestUp, and that was 60,000 euros, and that helped us a lot to fund our company. So yeah, I definitely think like grants and they can help. Yeah.
And I presume that for these kinds of startups, you need to find different kinds of profiles to join the company. So not only techies, but also people with in your case, an education background.
Yeah.
So which kind of skills are you looking for?
So right now we have, I mean, from the start we were pretty complementary as a team. We liked actually the education part for a bit. Like we had teachers in our families, but no one like directly involved in the projects. But now we actually have a person, an old teacher in the US, who is working full time with us, and she really brings like this teacher-centric approach, which is really important in creating the products. All about UX, and she has like it's great. She has like these small thoughts like, oh no, but a kid thinks this way, so you shouldn't do it this way. You should like put the password like limit. For instance, we had a password limit to 8 characters, minimum 8 characters, and like for kids that doesn't work. When they're like 8 years old, like they're never gonna remember something of 8 characters. So then we lowered at 4. It was like a simple thing, but it lowered like the number of support emails where we got like, oh, I lost my password, I forgot what my password is. So like these small things.
And is the tool, let's say, scientifically validated by some education authority? Yeah,
actually we, just recently, 2 months ago, we had a PhD student from the University of Texas who did a research about the effectiveness of our application and use it for education. And yeah, it was pretty good results. Overall, like addresses well the problems that students have. So in that sense, yeah, it was good to have that validation. Like,
sure.
In the, it matters for us more that teachers tell us like your tool is great and we really enjoy using it. But I think it's also good to have like this academic validation behind us for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about users, as a startup, you need to grow, obviously. And what is your strategy in terms of peer marketing to actually attract users? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure. So from the start, we really like focus on Twitter. So we just tried to target teachers that were active on Twitter. we participate in chats. So every Friday and Tuesday there's like social studies chats and edtech chats. It's like people use a certain hashtag, and then for now we just chat on Twitter. That's the way we got many users. And then lately we got quite a lot of press, so through blogs. So people writing reviews. But we haven't spent any money so far on marketing, so it's all been pretty organic. Yeah.
And is it a tool that you are also trying to, let's say, to convince parents to use for their kids, or you're only targeting teachers at school?
No, really targeted teachers. Yeah. We actually got some parents because homeschooling is quite big in the US. So we got some questions like, I want to create. No, for now, if you're a student, you need to have a teacher that invites you. They were like, I want my kid to be there on its own, but it's not really our focus. Like, it's purely for schools, for now. Yeah.
You allow students to create timelines or a report or something?
Yeah.
But only once the teachers are using it?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Correct.
Will you make it accessible to students as well to create their own timelines, or?
Yeah. So that's right now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, that's the primary way it's being used right now. So it's students creating reports, doing homework assignments on history, and then they can actually share with their peers, with their class, and they can share with the community. So if the teacher says, "Oh no, this timeline is great. I want everyone, all history users to be able to access it," then the teacher can share it with the community.
Will you be moving back to Europe at some point with the whole? Because you said it's very US based at the moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Ideally, yes, of course. I mean, for now, it makes more sense to be based in the US. I mean, to have our use in the US, just for the reason I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd really want to come back to Europe, and we see also here there's more and more technology being used in classrooms, so it would make sense to come. Yeah. Actually, we on a roadmap for early 2016 to translate the application. So right now it's just in English. We have other users from other languages using it, but obviously students from Russia doesn't necessarily know English, so it's so early 2016 we'll translate into a couple of languages and start expanding outside of the US.
Okay.
And also expanding outside of history?
Yeah.
But the name should maybe change then?
Yeah, that's something that comes up on the discussion board every so often. The name itself, we quite like it. So I don't think that's going to change. I don't think the name is going to change. But we definitely, so first we were history, and now, focus for history. Now we moved more towards social studies, so it's geography, economics, civics. And we see actually teachers, biology teachers using it, science teachers using it. So yeah, it's very versatile, and that's also a problem we have. We need to, keep our messaging focused, but at the same time, we don't want to lose out on, all those other opportunities. So it's trying to find a balance.
And speaking of other opportunities, what are your plans for higher education?
Right now, we don't really have a plan, to be honest, because we don't for primary school and high school. We now know, okay, this is a product that works. We kind of find a product market fit, if you want to say it like that. But for higher ed, we're not really sure what it's going to look like, what we need for that, and our resources are still so limited. So right now, I can't really say how that's going to look.
Do you have any things in mind, any ideas for what happens when your database of, I guess, looking at your website, I'd call them micro-narratives, like you're collecting tons of micro-narratives about history, and eventually it's going to build up to be a huge number of them. Do they interlink in any way so that you can explore? Do you have plans for that? You could get more and more detailed micro-narratives eventually, I suppose, so that people could explore history on their own through micro-narratives. Do you have grants?
We don't have that.
that.
No, so we have the same idea indeed. It's kind of, it's kind of like Wikipedia, where you just go, click on the link, and then like when you're surfing Wikipedia, you find yourself going like click, 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 click. And, so yeah, that definitely makes sense. We actually have a copy a timeline feature that's coming up. So say you're a teacher, and you find this narrative, this timeline that's created by another teacher that he has shared with everyone else. You can copy it and then make your own edits, and then someone else may copy it. So have like this kind of hierarchy of timelines. But that's more like, based on the same timeline, but we don't have like those interlinks yet. But yeah, that's definitely something that we'd like to have at some point. But it's pretty complex to put that in place. Technically also from like a UX point of view, I think. How would people discover, like would it be based on the words that they would link to another timeline? How would they discover that a timeline that's linked to their word exists? So there are like quite a few questions to be answered for that.
And do you think your stack, your technical stack, is ready now to support these new projects you want to?
I mean, it's always, so our backend is in Rails. I think you guys are doing that too. I think like Rails is a very mature platform, very big ecosystem. And so a lot of problems have already been solved. That's also one of the reasons why we picked Rails. You need authentication. Okay, you pick this gem. You need pagination. Pick this gem. And so a lot of the problems we would encounter would have already been solved and put in a gem that we can reuse. So I mean, obviously, I can't predict the future. Obviously, it's going to change. But I think with our current stack, we can go a long way.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still the same stack as in the beginning?
Yes. Yeah. So it's Rails backend, and so it's a single page application. We use Ember.js on the front end. So the backend is actually pretty simple. It's like a REST API. So it's all JSON that gets communicated. So the lot of the logic is in the front end.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you have a lot of students here at the Wagon today, and obviously you're a master in your field. What would be the single and best advice you would give to one of us on the verge of launching their own startup and using that kind of framework?
I guess when you start up, like one knows like time is your scarcest resource. It's a cliche, but I really found out like that's the case. Your backlog just keeps piling up, and there's always stuff to do. Like in 2 years' time, I've never been like, I'm done for today. What am I going to do next? Like, there's no such thing. So in the end, you really want to focus like on your application logic. If you want to do pagination, you don't want to spend your time, writing your own pagination stuff. You want to, quickly get it done so you can focus on the stuff that matters for your application. So I think using the tools that you know best is really important. That's the most important, actually. So you can quickly get done what you want to do. Yeah, that's one advice.
Another one.
Last two questions,
okay?
Last two questions.
You talked about analytics that you have live going on the page. How does that work?
So basically, so every time like a user does an action, like an event is sent back to the server.
But so I went on the thing. You just scroll through, right? So how do you know? Oh, this little post is amazing. How do you get that?
No, so it takes, for instance, one thing is like comments. If there's a lot of comments,
Right.
That's an indication.
Okay.
We actually keep track of like the scrolling. So you can see like if it's someone's like waiting a lot, like if the item is in the viewport for a long time, then maybe the number of clicks, like for images, the number of clicks, on the image to view it in full screen. So a couple of like indicators from which you can check it.
And the last question.
And a question about product management. So, launching a startup and product is quite difficult, and especially trying to find the right features for your product.
Yeah.
How did you prioritize all those features? Exactly, which one was the best? Which one would be following on? And so
Yeah. So we work in sprints of 3 months. So we work in sprints of 2 weeks, but then we have bigger sprints of 3 months, and every such a sprint has kind of a theme. So for the current one, it's growth. So we focus on features that would bring us more growth. Something like single sign-on, which we didn't have, which we're gonna implementing right now, which would grow because people have it easier to log in. And something like embeds. So right now you can embed your timeline on your own website, just like you can embed a YouTube video on your own website. So those are things. So that's one side, and then we also focus a lot on like customer feedback. So we send out a survey every 3 weeks after they register. We're sending to a survey, and then one of the questions is, what features would you want to ask? Would you want to see in Hstry? So based on that, and also the support emails we get. If we get, like we had a case. So up until like a month ago, you couldn't actually delete a classroom as a teacher. And then we got a lot of questions, like, because at first we didn't look beyond like 1 year later, so we thought, okay, they create a class and then we'll see where we are in 1 year. Then we got questions like, I want to be able to delete my classroom, and we got more and more, and at the end we got like 20 requests like that. So we're like, okay, maybe we should do something about it. So that's also a way we choose features and prioritize them then.
Okay, well, we're really glad you were here with us today, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Time for a good beer.